Good evening, and welcome to the final, much anticipated primary debate for the congressional race for New York 12, brought to you by COURIER and MeidasTouch. I'm Tara McGowan, founder and publisher of COURIER, a fast-growing independent news network with state newsrooms in 15 states across the country and a national bureau in DC. And I started COURIER 7 years ago to be able to build a new model for local and national media that met Americans who had been left behind by legacy media with factual, values-driven news and information that would inform and empower them to be more civically involved. That is why we are so excited to be hosting our first ever primary debate tonight in the great state of New York, in the great city of New York, for the 12th district. We are gonna have fun. Yes, we have an amazing audience. We have the 6 top candidates running for this incredibly exciting seat. This race has been nationalized for very good reasons. The candidates all share a number of common ideals, but very different visions for America, and we're so excited to have them share those visions with all of you tonight. So I know that this show also is the pregame to Game 4 of the Knicks, which everyone is very excited to get to, so I hope everybody at home that is watching is gonna stay to the end and then immediately turn it over for the tip-off. So I don't wanna waste any more time. I'm going to bring over my friend and our MC for the night, Emmy Award-winning journalist, host of The Don Lemon Show, former CNN and MSNBC anchor, presidential debate moderator, and free speech champion, Don Lemon. Woo! Don, take it away.
They told me not to cross that line or I would be on camera. So, good evening, everybody. I'll take this off. Katie Couric made me put this on. So, and I'm honored to be here with my friend Katie and some other influential journalists. So how are you guys feeling? Are you guys good? Yeah. Man, I've been seeing a lot of you guys on the TV and a lot of calls. Yeah.
Not from us, not from the girls.
No, but I said I've been seeing a lot of you guys, Okay, so look, we are happy that you are here tonight and that we get to share this moment with you. So welcome everybody to the final New York 12 primary debate. This is a crowded, closely watched contest here, congressional primary for a seat that hasn't been open for 30 years. You guys are making history. And that has caught national attention at a time when the Democratic Party is trying to define its future. Look at what happened last night. Like, look at what happened in Maine. You know, the new, yeah. Look at what happened on Monday night. You had an old candidate that was, you know, didn't get much love, and then you had the new model, which got a lot of love. I'm talking about Mamdani and Trump. So this is a defining moment. No, it's true. It's true. This is a defining moment as the American public have new conversations. We're having new conversations about insurgent versus establishment candidates, experienced traditional versus new organizing tactics, and then we grapple with the web of money and class and politics in magnified ways. I wish we could get the money out of the politics, and I'm sure you guys all agree with that. Because you'd have a challenger here, Mr. Schlossberg, if we could get the money out of politics. I can't afford to run. So this, well, I shouldn't say that. I just don't like raising money. It's just not fun. And I'm sure you guys will agree with this. So look, the 6 candidates here tonight will represent positions and messages and campaign strategies that cut across the big tent, those challenges and questions. And in turn, Democrats in New York's 12th district will have their opportunity on June 23rd to choose who they want to represent them in Congress and lay their claim to how the party should define itself in the next phase of the fight. So, to help in that, we've invited a bench of New Yorkers, including my friend and esteemed journalist Katie Couric, also esteemed streamer and journalist Jen Welch is here to shake up the traditional debate model and join us as co-moderators in this debate. So over the next hour, candidates will debate the issues shaping the 2026 midterms, including the rising cost of living and housing, right? Affordability, immigration, political corruption, and the influence of money in politics. You can applaud, Jack. AI regulation and what electability really looks like in the second Trump era. So this is the most important part because I'm going to give you guys the ground rules. I know I'm going on, but I just want to set up the ground rules, okay, before we get started. There will be no opening remarks because we want to dive right in. Each candidate will then have 70 seconds to respond. They can use that time to rebut or add new information, but 70 seconds is all they get for the question. We want it like a buzzer from the ball game. Did we get that? No, we didn't get it, Tara? I guess not. Oh, there it is. That means, you know, that's a shot clock. You got to stop right there. All right, at 50 seconds, there will be a buzzer, and at 70 seconds, their mics will be cut, okay? The candidates to the left of the speaker will answer next. At the end, there will be 60 seconds per candidate for closing remarks. You guys understand? Do I need to repeat any of that stuff? Okay. With that said, let's get started and welcome the candidates to the stage. They're already there. George Conway. Come on, guys. You better do it. Nina Schwalbe. Micah Lasher. Alex Borez. Laura Dunn. And Jack Schlossberg. I am going to get to ask and not answer the first question, and the first question is going to go to you, George Conway, okay? I know you love it when I ask you questions. All right. We go way back. Okay, so to kick this off, I want to start with a big vision, George. In every primary and election across the country today, candidates are balancing how to prioritize addressing the corruption and holding those in power accountable in a new Congress. With advancing bold solutions to the challenges plaguing Americans and New Yorkers, from the rising cost of living and gas prices to assessing affordable health care, if elected to represent this district, what will your #1 priority be upon taking the oath of office?
Holding Donald Trump and his administration accountable through investigations and ultimately through impeachment, conviction, and removal of the president and members of his cabinet. And I say this without, I say this because it's not a separate question from all of the other issues that we're going to be talking about tonight, like affordability, housing, healthcare, because Donald Trump has made all of these things worse. He's running, this is a criminal government, run by a criminal, a man who's basically, he's a narcissistic sociopath with 15,000 nuclear weapons. He's delusional. He thought he got a standing ovation on Monday night. And he's making everything worse. And to make things better, to pass the lines of laws that we need to pass to make things better on any issue, he's got to be gone.
Mm-hmm. Nina?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Nina Schwalbe, actually. And I'm a public health expert. I've delivered billions of vaccines around the world and worked in over 100 countries. And poverty, the leading cause of poverty in the United States is catastrophic health care debt. Right now in New York City, 42,000 people are losing their SNAP benefits and 700,000 at risk of losing their Medicaid benefits. This is a tragedy, and we have to stop it. We're in the United States, one of the richest countries in the world, and yet we have the worst outcomes. We pay for drugs with taxpayer dollars, and then we pay the highest prices in the world. My first action is healthy people, healthy democracy. Lower the price of drugs, make sure everybody has a family doctor, and protect and expand Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act towards a single-payer system so that everyone in the US has health. Healthcare is a right. Healthcare is not a commodity.
Micah.
Thanks for having me. I'm Micah Lasher. I'm very proud to have been the State Assembly's leader in how we use state law and state power to fight back against the fascists in the White House. I've worked to take on ICE and RFK Jr. and fight fire with fire on redistricting. I'm running for Congress both to push the Democratic Party to be a more effective fighting force against Donald Trump, throw sand in the works at every available opportunity with what Mike Johnson and his sycophants in the House are trying to do, hold Trump administration officials accountable to the rule of law, and refocus on the economic concerns facing Americans. I think we have to do both things. I'm running on a campaign plan that I call a New Deal for a new generation. I'm very proud that the New Deal was the creation of New Yorkers like FDR and Francis Perkins. I think we've got to get back to those ideas. So my plan is a first job guarantee for young Americans, help getting your first home, and dramatically increase investment in child care assistance and a program of paid family leave at the federal level to make sure you can get through your first year of parenting without getting crushed by the costs. We have to do both things.
Thank you, Micah. Thank you very much. Alex?
Thanks for having us and hosting this last debate. I'm Alex Boris. I'm a fifth-generation New Yorker, and I'm running for Congress because the old ways and the old ideas aren't working anymore. I'm now raising the sixth generation, my son Charlie, who's 10 months old. And life is getting hard for families like ours. Families that want to raise their kids in the same neighborhoods that they grew up in. And so we need to push back on Donald Trump. We need to end the corruption that is happening all throughout government. But we really need to tackle the cost of living crisis. And that means preserving the affordable housing we have while expanding and building a lot more. It means providing health care for every person in this country. Health care is a human right. It means helping to subsidize child care so that families can have access to the care that they need. It means lowering utility bills by investing in renewable energy. We have to put the cost of living crisis front and center, and we have to deliver real solutions.
As a civil rights attorney who's already sued Donald Trump, I will be the accountability candidate for NY-12 that's not just fighting for congressional term limits, ending insider trading, and ethical standards to the Supreme Court. I feel especially called as a civil rights attorney to push truth and reconciliation commissions on ICE and the Customs and Border Patrol officers. We need to unmask them, name the violations of human rights and due process that have occurred, investigate Renee Good and Alex Preddy's murders and hold people accountable, and of course, compensate victims and survivors. We have gone far too long in this country looking past every single horror, and we New Yorkers have been threatened with the next ICE raid. We must stand up, we must fight back, and that starts with someone who holds the line. Trump is afraid of a queer woman and a sexual assault survivor coming after him, and that's what I'll do for New Yorkers.
Thank you. Jack?
The Democratic Party's got to get its confidence back. We got to be able to do two things at once. Like George was saying, impeach and remove and prosecute, hold them accountable. I can think of nothing more demoralizing than watching this all go down and then saying, we don't have time to prosecute these crimes. The question was to pick one thing. I'm going to also cheat like the rest of us and say more than one thing. We need to ban super PACs. Super PACs are why we have 5 people on this stage tonight. Super PACs are the reason why Republican billionaires are trying to buy the election in New York 12. Super PACs are the reason that the corruption crisis in this country has gotten so bad that billionaire oligarchs are able to control actual companies. But beyond that, I want to make everybody be able to deduct their rent from their taxes.
Good segue to this next question. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Couric. I'm a journalist, Knicks fan, and District 12 voter, by the way. So, but I want to preface this question with just to say thank you all for throwing your hats into the ring. I think doing that is a real act of patriotism and takes a lot of guts. So I just wanted to say that. This primary race, as Jack was sort of alluding to, is on track to be one of the most expensive in history, with tens of millions of dollars being poured into the race by outside super PACs that include super PACs that are for and against AI regulation, as you know, not to mention Mike Bloomberg, the former mayor, who's come up with up to $5 million for your campaign, Micah. So where do each of you stand on campaign finance reform, and how can you ensure voters that if you're elected, your positions will represent them, not the people behind this outside money? And Alex, why don't we start with you?
Well, thanks for that question. In 3 weeks after I declared my candidacy for this race, on my wedding anniversary, I might add, I found out that I was going to be the #1 target of the super PAC Leading the Future, funded by Trump mega donors, and that they promised to spend $10 million against me. So I am more motivated than anyone in the country to shut off super PACs and this outside spending. They were the ones who led this race by coming in and trying to send a message that no one should regulate AI, or you will become a huge target. And they will spend whatever it takes to, quote, make an example out of you. And so all of my opponents are benefiting from that spending. At times, they're repeating the false claims of that super PAC. And I am the one most motivated to end that outside spending. In Congress, I will fight to overturn Citizens United. I will fight for disclosure on every super PAC. I will be the strongest fighter of getting rid of money in politics.
Micah?
I agree that we absolutely need to overturn Citizens United. I think the scourge of super PACs is enormously unhealthy in elections across the country, and we would all be better off if it wasn't a factor in this race. I do think there's a question of what is the motivation of a various super PACs' involvement in a race. And we've talked about a number of them. One we haven't talked about is the crypto industry. And I think it's worth mentioning that Chris Larson, who's the founder of Ripple and whose past greatest hits involve a concerted effort to take out Elizabeth Warren because of her efforts to regulate the crypto industry, is spending $3.5 million to support Alex's campaign, following his proactive seeking of support from the crypto industry, filling out a questionnaire on standwithcrypto.com, getting an A+, very strongly pro-crypto rating. And I think this district should not have someone who is going to Congress to carry the agenda of a pretty pernicious special interest.
Nina?
I was knocking on the door of Amsterdam Houses, and I was giving my spiel to a woman who lives there. It's NY-12 housing on the west side. And she said, wait, stop. The only thing that really matters here is voting rights. And I thought, you know what? You're right. We need to pass the John Lewis Voter Rights Act. We need to have independent redistricting instead of partisan gerrymandering. And we need to reform campaign finance. Alex and Micah have billionaires behind them, spending literally tens of millions of dollars on their campaign. And I'd like you to think about a couple of things. And Jack, I don't know who the 5 were. There are 6 of us?
I'm not great at counting. There's really no way of knowing.
Okay. For every dollar these guys spend on a mailer, and those mailers you get, they cost between $1.25 and $2.50, depending on size and shape, we could vaccinate a child. And for every $5 million they spend on ads, 2,000 New Yorkers could have SNAP benefits. We need to take money out of campaign spending.
George?
Look, I'm for anything that reduces, that's constitutional and reduces the power and scope and of super PACs, absolutely. And I think more disclosure requirements have to be imposed. I'm for campaign finance reform. But let me say this, it's not going to happen until Donald Trump is gone, until he is removed from office. He's going to stand in the way of any such reform. And as far as my own campaign is concerned and how you can rely on me that I mean this about money and super PACs, I'm not ever going to run for public office again. I'm promising to limit myself to 1 term for the purpose of helping to remove Donald Trump sooner rather than later so that we can start talking about all the things that we need to do and start having a debate with a normal democracy, with a normal president who actually cares about something other than his own ego and his own pocketbook.
Jack?
I got a lot to say about this because I think it's really, really important. The rules have been designed to be intentionally confusing so that you can't really figure out who's telling the truth. There's a kernel of truth in what Alex is saying. There's a kernel of truth in what Micah is saying. But the big picture gets lost. The big picture is if any of you out there want to contribute to a campaign, you're limited at $3,500 and you have to put your name on it. But if you have a shell company called a super PAC, unlimited, undisclosed. You guys talk about how we need to overturn Citizens United. How about you just start by following the rules that you wish as they were? I don't understand this. I just don't understand how you can make excuses. This is New York City. This is the most blue district in the country. And it's not just billionaires who are funding you guys. It's Republicans who are funding you guys. And I think as a New Yorker, I want to defend my hometown. And I think it's insane that you've got a crypto billionaire who's running MAGA candidates all across the country who wants you to get elected.
Laura?
I'm sitting on the stage with millionaires who are backed by billionaires and funded by super PACs. I'm middle class. I've actually had to work the entire time that I'm campaigning because I'm a single woman living in Manhattan. It is extraordinarily expensive to do what I'm doing. And instead of paying off my student loans, I'm here running. And I'm disgusted by the Democratic Party in New York City that has shut me out over money that has come from the working class, not from the wealthy. It shouldn't matter how much you fundraise. It should matter what your ideas are, what your experience is, and what your policy vision is for New York City. And it's not just the campaign reform, it's also the media, the traditional media, who has violated equal time rules several times to exclude both the women in this race over and over, including me from the debate stage last night. Shame on New York for buying into Citizens United.
Laura, I agree, and I'm glad you're included here. And I think it's a very good thing that you and Nina and a wide stage are here. Can I just ask the moderators for clarification on if we're invoked by name or directly attacked, how do we want to handle it for the next hour and a half?
I can chime in. We weren't going to have rebuttals because we are short on time. You are able to use your time in the next question to respond. Of course, you guys can do as you wish, and we can cut you off as you wish, but those are the rules.
And we did that because we wanted to have everybody included in this one, so that's all.
Thank you.
Hope that answers your question, Alex. I'm Audrey Kemp. I'm lead political correspondent for COURIER New York, COURIER Newsroom's new local political operation. Very exciting. This question is regarding foreign policy and extremely current events. So last night and tonight, the United States launched airstrikes on Iran after Tehran downed an American military helicopter. It's the latest escalation in a war now in its 4th month, with peace talks in collapse. Nina, we'll start with you on this one. What is your position on this war? Are you for increased military action in the region? And if not, how would you navigate brokering an end to it in Congress, given that our president has largely dismissed congressional efforts to stop it? Thank you.
Yeah, there's no solution except stopping this war. We need to stop this war. This was an illegal war started by a crazy president. The thing that it has shown me is that our Democratic leadership is terrible. They did not stand up to this man. I mean, there's lots of ways to protest, and we've got some great protesters in the audience, and I'm happy to say that for me, Alex got an A rating from Crypto, I got an A rating from ACT UP. And what would ACT UP do in this situation? They'd sit in the congressional room and they get arrested to show how they protest. We have destroyed a region. We are spending billions of dollars that could be spent on NYCHA housing, on health care, on the American citizens, and instead we're using it to bomb and kill and destabilize a region. There's no excuse for this war. It has to stop.
Thank you, Nina. We'll go to George next.
I absolutely agree with Nina. This war is insane to start with. It has been counterproductive to American interests. It's immoral and it's illegal. And Donald Trump is crazy, as Nina said. And that was the fundamental problem. What he has done in this war is just really the most incredible strategic insanity blunder that we've ever seen. He's wiped the pieces off the chessboard, and now he's trying to put them back where they were, but you can't do that. And the problem fundamentally at the end of the day is we do have to end the war, but we can't end it until Donald Trump is gone. Because Donald Trump is the problem here. Donald Trump is the one who ignored reality. Donald Trump is the one who's told us, I said 37 times CNN reported yesterday, that he is close to a deal with Iran. 37. He's delusional. He has no idea what he's doing. He's put himself into a box.
Thank you.
And we need to kick him out of the box.
Micah, we'll take it to you.
Democrats need to be making so much more noise about this awful, reckless, illegal war. The War Powers Resolution was 70 days too late. They should have been putting it on the floor every day until it passed. The events of the last 24 hours are just another reminder of what recklessness brings us. We are losing lives. We are killing civilians. We are lighting money on fire, bringing enormous instability to the region. And we are diminishing every day our credibility on the international stage. We need to stop the war. We need to rebuild our credibility with our allies and bring diplomatic pressure to bear on Iran. And the other thing we need to do is fix the War Powers Resolution. And I wish I could say that only Republicans have flouted the War Powers Resolution, but presidents of both parties, since it was put on the books, every president has flouted the War Powers Resolution.
Alex?
Donald Trump dove headfirst into this war of choice that has left our country weaker and poorer. It has led to dead American service members, dead Iranian civilians. It has strengthened the Iranian regime and left them more likely to stay in place and repressing their citizens. And it's raised our gas prices and our prices of everything here at home. This war should have never been started. I'm glad that the House of Representatives finally passed the War Powers Resolution, which says that our troops need to come home now. By keeping them there, by keeping them around, you are asking for an event like we saw 2 days ago. You are putting their lives at risk. We imminently need to bring our troops home and work with our diplomatic partners to push towards peace before a single American troop dies.
Thank you. Laura?
We've already lost American troops, and I'm sad that you didn't acknowledge them in your comments.
I did at the start.
Lives
I
have
said
been
single
lost,
additional at the end.
and
but
it
thank
is
you.
essential that we stop this war. Right now, we are at war, not simply because of Donald Trump, nor the bad leadership of Pete Hegseth. It is because Israel requested it. We have AIPAC money corrupting the Democratic Party, not just the Republican Party, and the DNC has failed to call this out. We are in NY-12, which has a significant Jewish population that is feeling the effects of anti-Semitism because of the political discourse coming from this war. It is essential that Democrats stand up and make it clear that Israel will not influence our politics. We cannot combine our military with them. We cannot combine our intelligence with them. We should not be partnering on security. We can end the
Thank
war
you,
in
Laura.
Iran when we lead into
Jack?
our allies and no longer rely on Israel solely for our information.
Thank you. Jack?
We all agree war in Iran, terrible idea. Went to war with no plan. We lost a war of choice. Left Iran in a better negotiating position than when we started. Iran is not our friend. Iran is our adversary. We all take seriously the threat that Iran poses. I have no sympathy for the Iranian government. But even in the Iraq war, the president went to both houses of Congress, went to the UN. It was a formality. They lied, but at least we went through the procedure then. We're not even pretending anymore. And the longer President Trump is in power, the longer we remain risk to this type of insane behavior. And I just want to mention, the Middle East is something that we've talked a lot about in this campaign. It's close to my heart. I hope we'll talk about it in later questions. But I also want to remember that there are so many other problems around the world that we're not able to solve because we're starting reckless wars of choice. Our
Thank you,
adversaries in
candidates.
Asia and Africa, the whole world is watching, and we're wasting our time with reckless wars. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates.
Hello. My name is Chai Dengari, and I'm from More Perfect Union, a nonprofit newsroom covering the stories of America's working class. Yes. So my question is about affordability. 62% of New Yorkers and 70% of Americans nationwide are struggling to afford the basics of food, healthcare, housing. In our own reporting, when we've been on the ground in working class communities, we hear from Americans who don't want to just hear about the cost of living in the abstract, but they want to hear specific solutions that are going to match the scale of the crisis. So, and this question is for Micah first. What is one specific policy you would fight for to bring down costs?
Paid family leave at the federal level. There are 37 states in this country that have no family leave program. It puts new parents in an impossible bind, facing the choice of, do I spend time with my newborn or do I go pay the bills? It makes it impossible to care for a loved one who's sick, even in New York. And I'm glad that we have a benefit here. I was proud to help expand it, pass the first prenatal leave program in New York. But it's a pretty thin benefit still in New York. And so we should have a family leave program that is additive in states like New York that have a benefit and creates a baseline in states that don't. I would also add, we need to take on corporate power that is driving costs up. I've introduced legislation here in New York to create a state-level Robinson-Patman Act to deal with grocery prices and bring down grocery prices. And we need to get back to enforcement of that law at the federal level as well.
Alex.
We need to build more housing and preserve the affordable housing that we have. Because if there's no housing, then New Yorkers end up moving to Jersey, and they develop awful taste in sports teams and bagels and pizza, and it is a fate that we must avoid. And yes, a lot of housing policy is set at the state level, and I've been proud to be a leader in that fight of how we change around taxes to incentivize building more. But there is so much that the federal government can do. The federal government already gives grants to each state to build affordable housing. New York uses our cap every year. Other states don't. It's money already allocated by Congress. We should get to use it here. We should readjust the area median income. What's set counts as affordable. That's set at the federal level. And New York gets a different punitive calculation. We should get one so that what we call affordable is actually affordable. We should repeal the Fair Cloth Amendment so we can actually get resources to NYCHA. We should bring the full weight of the federal government to build and preserve housing in New York City.
Laura.
We must reform the tax code. It works for the wealthy, not the working class, and that's intentional because Congress members have become corrupt. They stay for decades, they trade with insider information. Things that aren't allowed on Wall Street are allowed on Capitol Hill every day, and those are things that I will end. When we have more accountability, we will have more affordability. In addition to making sure that the tax code is equalized and everyone is paying their fair share, I agree that we must invest in affordable housing. We have to reform it. So for every dollar New York City and state puts in, the federal government matches. It should be locally driven, not detached DCists sitting on the Hill wondering if it's worth fixing NYCHA housing. There's a $300 million deficit because people are so disconnected. We also must pass universal health care to ensure catastrophic coverage. No one should go bankrupt from illness or injury in this country. These are the things I will fight for in Congress.
Jack.
A problem the Democratic Party has is that we talk in huge, vague abstractions. I'm trying to fix that with our campaign with real policies that you can get passed in what's called a must-pass bill. It's a budget bill that the president has to vote on or else shuts down the government. That's where my renter's deduction comes in. Deduct your rent from your taxes. That's where my plan to increase the child tax credit comes in by taking the $1 billion that Trump appropriated for the ballroom and making the child tax credit paid monthly. Make HIV medication free at the point of care. We need to do so many different things. We're not going to get to Congress. Look, it's going to take us the rest of our lives at the very least to fix what Trump has done in the last 2 years. We're going to be at this work together forever, and we cannot make incremental progress the enemy of perfection. So that's why I think we need to introduce real plans like mine to make Trump pay for the cost of the perimeter around Trump Tower and invest in cops, teachers, and transit. Real, specific ideas, not pie in the sky, what can I deliver for you?
George.
Love everything I've heard here. Let's see, enhancing the Robinson-Patman Act, paid family leave, tax reform, and I would add to tax reform the idea that billionaires can pay no taxes by borrowing money against stock. That's insane. We need to fix that. What else we had talking about the renter's deduction. I think also we should restore the state and local tax deduction. None of this happens as long as Donald Trump is president. Full stop. We could put all of this into a big bill. We'll call it the Everything is Better bill, our version of the big beautiful bill. And the only way we're going to get him to sign that bill while he's still president is to trick him into thinking it's a crypto deal for Don Jr. All right? And then if we get him to sign it, is he going to obey the law? This man who tried to shut down the Department of Education without statutory authority has done so many things in violation of law? No. He has to go first.
Nina.
This weekend on Saturday, I was in Strauss houses on the east side, and I met a man who was on kidney dialysis, and he lives on the 17th floor, and he told me how his elevator is often broken and he has to walk up. The disrepair of NYCHA housing is a man-made failure and a political choice, and a bad one at that. Public housing is a public good. Housing is a public good. We need to fully fund NYCHA repairs. We need to stop warehousing of apartments and tax landlords that keep apartments empty. We need to increase the voucher program and also penalize landlords that don't accept vouchers. And we need a federal housing agency which reinvests in Mitchell-Lama type housing, which is what made New York safe and affordable for working people. I hear my colleagues talk a lot about these big policies, but what I hear from New Yorkers is that their housing is in disrepair. Mold, asthma, broken elevators. That's the problem we need to solve for New Yorkers now.
Hi, I'm Eileen Grunch, and I'm an immigration reporter at Documented. We cover New York news for immigrant New Yorkers. And my question is, on Monday, Border Czar Tom Homan said he reviewed plans to send, quote, more agents than you've ever seen to New York City. This follows reporting that last month, Trump's ICE agents reportedly defied a federal court order banning civil arrests inside Manhattan's immigration courthouses, where they detained a 21-year-old immigrant named Alexander. Congress has real tools to respond. To name a few, it can withhold funding from DHS, subpoena agency officials, or launch oversight investigations. This question starts with Jack. How exactly do you plan to use your authority to protect immigrant New Yorkers?
Thank you. I also just want to thank Courier and Documented for the independent journalism that you're doing. Sorry, I'm not trying to pander, but it's really true. A couple people, oligarchs, are controlling our news outlets, and it's harder than ever to get these stories out there, so I really appreciate it. But now I got to talk really, really quick. So abolish ICE, we all agree. Last weekend, I stood with 4 people from Minnesota, citizens, who all organized in their communities to resist ICE occupation there. It was a mom, a superintendent, and a mom organized their communities to make sure that the people who were left out on the street were taken care of. If this happens in New York City, I will be doing the same thing. In Congress, we've got to do everything we can to investigate and prosecute, to replace ICE with an agency that is bound by constitutional practices and civil rights, and not get lost in the fact that comprehensive immigration reform is the real goal that we need to set for ourselves.
George?
Absolutely. We have to end ICE. We have to terminate its funding and replace it with a humane agency that actually is responsible to the people and not to Donald Trump. And we need immigration reform like the kind that we could have had in 2024 under President Biden if President Trump didn't want to he didn't tell the House to stop it in order for him to create an issue that he could abuse. But again, none of this happens until he's gone. He has to go. He is using immigration reform, immigration abuse, using ICE to do things like he said, Pam Bondi said, we'll take the ICE out of Minnesota if you give us your voting rolls. This isn't about immigration reform. This is about oppression. This is about abuse of public power, and he needs to go before we can do anything more other than just delaying actions.
Thank you. Nina?
We absolutely need to abolish ICE, and activists have been calling for that basically since ICE was created. We need to instead create humane pathways to immigration, and what that means is more judges, more translators, more family services, and we need to restore our diplomacy and our diplomatic embassies. We have over 100 embassies with no ambassadors at all. That's the first line of where people come when they want to come to this country. For me, what's happening now is an abject failure of our democratic leadership. I mean, you all saw the vote today. Absolutely crazy. And that's why last night on the stage with the 4 men, I called for Chuck Schumer's resignation as the leader of the Democratic Party. The gentlemen were not willing to step up or stand out against our democratic, the legacy Democrats that have left us in this place. That's why we need new leadership.
Mr. Lasher?
After ICE agents murdered Alex Preddy and Renee Good in Minneapolis, the next morning after Alex Preddy was murdered, I hopped on a plane and went to Minneapolis. And I wanted to stand in solidarity with the people there and protest and see what was happening on the ground. And it was absolutely terrifying. It was a city under occupation by a number of ICE agents that was 3 times the size of the uniformed police departments in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So if you think about that in New York terms, when you think about what Tom Homan's talking about, imagine 120,000 ICE agents terrorizing the 5 boroughs. It absolutely must not happen. I was inspired by the people of Minneapolis who pushed ICE out of that city. I hope we don't have to do the same thing here in New York, but I know New Yorkers will. In Congress, I put out a plan on my website, micahlasher.com/project2026, that is about how we use power to fight back. The second part is about oversight and investigations. ICE is at the top of the list. Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, let's hold each and every one of them accountable, prosecute, and abolish ICE.
Thank you. Alex?
We must abolish, dismantle, and prosecute ICE. And I said that from a debate stage a week ago, and the RNC retweeted it as if that would tell me to back down. So let me say it again for them. We need to abolish, dismantle, and prosecute ICE. What they are doing, sending armed, masked thugs into our streets to wrap up and grab our peaceful neighbors, has no role in a democratic society, certainly has no role here in New York City. Instead, Democrats need to be leading with our values, which are that we are a city and a nation of immigrants. And immigrants make us stronger. We should want people coming here in the shadow of the Statue of Liberty. We should want everyone striving for the American dream, and we should do what we can so that everyone has access to it. And the message that are being sent from this White House is the most un-American message that could be sent.
Laura?
Immigration has made our nation great, and it's a legacy worth protecting. As the granddaughter of a Guatemalan immigrant, I will fight for pathways for citizenship. I will not only abolish ICE, but change Customs and Borders Patrol so it has a 10-mile, not a 100-mile jurisdiction. And I've already put forward my plan for Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. I'm sitting next to a candidate who worked for Palantir into the Trump administration, who kept his stock thereafter and sold it to buy the house his family now lives in. He claims that he had an attack on moral conscience, but he simply did not. He profited. And I'm sitting next to another candidate who went after a Latino politician with a racist cartoon at the beginning of his political career. You cannot stand and say you will protect immigrants when your own legacy is one of racism and hate. There is no excuse for the behavior of the 2 male candidates on the stage, Mr. Boris and Mr. Lasher.
Thank you.
I was on my phone. Hi, I'm Michael Foote. I'm an immigration attorney and social media influencer. I go to detention centers around America and represent migrants as they are in removal proceedings and defend them, argue for their civil and human rights. I wanted to ask you today, actually, there was, someone went to every congressperson today and delivered a packet of 535 letters, all handwritten by children who are being detained at Dilley Detention Center in Texas, while Texas is very different from the New York 12 district. These children are being detained in American detention centers, which are owned and operated by for-profit corporations such as CoreCivic. So my question, we'll start with you, Micah, is what are you going to do when you get that packet of 535 letters from children who are being held in detention centers?
I think we need to use every ounce of power that we have, whether it is in the minority to hold up funding, to slow down and try to stall any effort by Mike Johnson to continue funding this abject cruelty. And the minute we have enough power, we absolutely must abolish ICE, end all of these contracts with private detention facilities. This is so antithetical to who we are as a country. When I was in Minneapolis, I met with the mayor and the school board chair of the town where Liam Ramos was abducted from, Columbia Heights, Minnesota. And there are no words. And we need to put our bodies on the line. We need to muster every aspect of our power to end this regime of cruelty.
Thank you. Nina?
By the time I got those letters, I would have already closed those prisons, because they're not detention centers. They are prisons. We are imprisoning children who cross that border. I worked with 2 groups that tried and have tried for decades. This is not a new problem. the Women's Commission for Refugee Women and Children, and Physicians for Human Rights, who have gone, and Amnesty International as well, have gone into those detention centers to document the abuses. This needed to stop in the last administration. This has been going on for too long. So by the time I get those letters, those kids will be writing them from schools with families, their families.
Thank you, George.
We absolutely have to stop funding these prisons for children, period. But we can't get rid of ICE. We can't take further steps. We can stop funding. A Democratic Congress will be able to stop the funding. But to eliminate ICE, to eliminate the problem of Donald Trump and his immigration henchmen, we have to get rid of them. We have to impeach and remove them. And that's step one. Before we get to abolishing ICE, we have to end this sooner. We can't last another 32 months of what we've seen from the last 16 in this area and any other. And we have to do everything we can to bring this era to a close sooner rather than later. And that's why I'm running. That's why I'm running for one term, because this is the term that counts. These 2 years have really count more than any other.
Thank you, George. And you, Jack?
We all want to abolish ICE. Comprehensive immigration reform has to be our goal. We got to abolish these for-profit institutions and criminal justice reform and for-profit prisons, to be sure. I would love to respond handwritten letters to all 532 of those people. I think that, in my experience, that goes a long way. I just want to acknowledge that we're sitting here in New York, and we all agree on a lot of this stuff, and it's common sense to a lot of us. But we got to be clear about what we're up against. We are up against candidates across the country who think that ICE agents should all be given the Medal of Freedom. Candidates across the country who advertise and say, cheers to ICE. And some of those candidates, two of those candidates actually, Andy Barr and Clayton Fuller, Chris Larson, Alex's biggest funder, is bankrolling them. I think that's a giant question mark in front of everything he says about immigration reform.
Okay, thank you, Jack. And you, Laura?
Those children are not just being detained. They're being subjected to horrific health conditions. They are being sexually abused, and teenage girls who came into those centers pregnant are now missing. I believe that they are being trafficked actively by our federal government. I have proposed Truth and Reconciliation Commissions to unmask agents, to name these violations, to find these survivors, to compensate for these crimes against humanity. But we must do more. I'm the only person on this stage who is ever part of a union. And what I've learned from being part of a union is how to organize. I would call on every member of Congress to surround Delaney Hall and not let any ICE agents go in or out until everyone is released. We have this ability. Liberia did something similar. When there were so many warlords, all the women surrounded them and did not let them leave until there was peace in the land, and we can do the same.
Thank you, Laura. And you, Alex?
If I had that heartbreaking day of getting letters from 535 detained children, I would first contact each of their families. And I would tell them that I will fight as hard as I can to get rid of all private prisons, the same way I went to Delaney Hall and called for the GEO Group to be taken out of business and get those private prisons gone. I will tell them that for my career, I stepped away from a company because it decided to work with ICE before I was ever in elected office, that this has been a lifelong commitment to fight for immigrants. And I will tell them that I will not rest until every single one of their children is home at their dinner table and that they can give them a hug. We need to look in the eyes the evil and cruelty of the Donald Trump regime. This is a stain on our nation, and every Democrat has to rise up to this moment.
Thank you.
I'm back. How's everybody doing? So right now, we are living through one of, if not the biggest, cover-ups by our federal government in U.S. history with regards to the Epstein files. According to details published in a new bombshell report by the New York Times this morning, this deliberate cover-up has been orchestrated from day one, in part by Trump's personal lawyer and current nominee for U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. Unlike New Mexico, whose state legislators recently voted unanimously to create an Epstein Truth Commission and launch state investigations into the newly released files, New York State, where Epstein's mansion was in this district, New York 12, has yet to launch a single investigation pertaining to information released in the files. According to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, New York ranks 4th in the nation for human trafficking cases. I know that each of you have made stopping corruption a core issue that you are running on, and many of you have gone on the record to say that you support efforts to impeach President Trump if you're elected. But when it comes to the cover-up of the Epstein files and the entrenched corruption surrounding the protection of the perpetrators and the enablers that has spanned numerous administrations from both parties, federal and state governments, and industry leaders, what would you personally do if elected to both achieve accountability and justice for the victims and survivors and to ensure that no gross corruption of this scale will occur in our country ever again? I want to start with you, Micah.
I previously was chief of staff in the New York State Attorney General's office, and I was very proud of a range of actions that we took to take on corruption and fraud, including one of the very first government cases against Donald Trump before he darkened the door of the White House. I think Congress needs to be so much more aggressive in using its power. I was glad that we saw the use of a discharge petition to get the Epstein files initially released. It was really the first time the Democrats had used a tool that was available to them. That should be used far more frequently. We should have a full federal investigation, full release of the Epstein files, full prosecutions of everyone who aided and abetted what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And as a matter for the Democratic Party, we should not stop talking about this. It was the Epstein files. Donald Trump was so afraid of the Epstein files. It was one of the reasons that he launched his reckless, illegal war. Democrats should not stop talking about this until we have full transparency and full accountability.
Thank you. Alex?
Corruption at this scale just is or previously was unimaginable. There's a number of people in this room that have done fantastic work to raise awareness to this. I see Eliza Orlins, who led a 24-hour reading of the Epstein files. I want to thank George for joining that reading. I want to thank Laura for talking about this so passionately on the trail and not letting anyone forget about it. We, as Democrats, need to keep this top of mind. We should leave no stone unturned, no matter where it goes or who it implicates, because we need to be the party that fights for justice, and we need to uncover every little twist and turn, every casual norm that allowed this to continue. People knew, people had hints of what was going on, and yet they turned the other way. We should make sure that in the future, no one thinks to turn the other way, because they know that they will be exposed.
Thank you. Laura?
I am public about being a campus sexual assault survivor. I worked on the 2013 Violence Against Women Act, and that required me to go office by office to Democrats and Republicans, sharing my pain time and time again. And after 2 years, I passed that law. I went on to work on the rulemaking committee, and I worked with President Obama to coordinate federal enforcement of this law. I will do nothing less for the Epstein files. I am the only candidate on the stage who has appeared with Epstein and Trump survivors during my campaign to call for justice. I was honored to have them by my side when I filed my petitions to get on the ballot, because they want a survivor in Congress, someone who knows what it takes to fight and expose this horror. I so deeply appreciate that, as pointed out, NY-12 is the home of Jeffrey Epstein. It must be the leading cause of whoever wins this race to ensure justice for each and every survivor.
Thank you, Laura. Jack?
Criminal prosecution, investigations, the use of the subpoena power by the Judiciary Committee and others is no less than is acceptable. And there's a lot of reasons why this has not come out. And I think a large reason that we tiptoe around and we get caught up into the specifics of the characters and the awful things that happened is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was facilitating certain activities for billionaires, for people with more money than God, for people who could buy influence in politics. And to me, the only way to stop this kind of cover-up from going forward is to completely reduce the amount of power that billionaires have over our political system. And we're not going to do that if they're still allowed to buy politicians. And I don't see a way around it.
Jack, George.
I feel strongly about this issue as the father of 3 girls, 3 daughters, now young women. And I was the guy who told E. Jean Carroll that she could sue her rapist, Donald Trump. I was the one who found E. Jean Carroll, her lawyer, who won $88.3 million for her against her rapist and the man who defamed her. And it makes my blood boil. It's only just the tip of the iceberg. I agree that all of the Epstein files need to be released, and those who have violated the law that President Trump was forced to sign to release those files should be impeached, including and starting with Todd Blanche, who is a disgrace to the profession of the law. I will not stop at this. This is what my campaign is about: holding Donald Trump accountable and holding him accountable for everything, including his sexual abuse.
Thank you.
George talks a lot about the E.J. Carroll case, and I just want to make clear that it was Roberta Kaplan that tried that case. I know George brokered the deal, but Robbie Kaplan tried and won that
Absolutely.
case. Shout out to Robbie for
Robbie
doing that.
is the greatest.
I want to come back to the previous question because it relates, and I hope I can do that relational thing in 44 seconds. The question that we were asked about immigration, there's a thing called the Convention on the Rights of the Child. I led UNICEF's health programs around the world in 100 countries, and the primary driving force is the Convention on the Rights of the Child. We also have conventions, UN conventions, that protect women and protect human rights. The US is not part of any of these conventions. We're not part of these treaties. We need to sign these treaties and hold ourselves accountable to the international courts which review cases. We can't just do it ourselves. We can't just hold ourselves accountable, and we've made that clear with the Epstein files. 4 minutes, it's so little time. I'm gonna stop, but I'll come back next time. I'm always gonna be behind.
Thank you, Nina.
It's a hard clock this
Clock is
time.
tough,
This
yeah.
clock, it's right there for us. Like you're like.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Janfazza, founder of The Up and Up, which is a research and media firm focused on Gen Z. Demographic estimates from the Census Reporter profile for Congressional District 12 indicate that the median age in New York 12 is around 40.1 years old, which means that Gen Z and younger millennials make up a significant, even if a minority, portion of the overall electorate in your district. Our generation has grown up questioning where they belong, from social media and the impact of COVID to the growing loneliness epidemic. And now we've seen at college graduations across the country that recent graduates are booing commencement speakers who are talking about AI as we look at the job market and are being told that we actually might become obsolete. This really boils down to a question about purpose for a generation that is deeply in search of it, and understanding what kind of a future we can imagine for ourselves, for our families. George, we're going to start with you for this one. As AI impacts the entry-level job market, what tangible policies do you propose to not only regulate AI, but to instill purpose in a generation deeply in search of it?
I think we have to heavily regulate AI. I'm open to the Bernie Sanders suggestion that we have government ownership of AI, at least partial ownership. I'm receptive to the idea that we have to tax businesses that use AI and replace human workers with AI. I'm for all of those things, but we can't get there as long as the people that Alex is talking about who are funding opposition, pro-Trump people who are funding opposition to AI regulation, as long as Donald Trump is present in office, in power, none of this is going to happen. And that's why everything boils down to getting rid of Trump sooner rather than later, because the AI thing is a time bomb, and we don't have much time.
Thank you. Nina.
I have two children, 21 and 22, and when I talk to people on the street, jobs in AI are of primary concern. I propose an American Job Corps, which would guarantee young people work when they get out of school at a living wage. It would provide them debt relief for school, and it would also give them a pathway to public service. We have models like this called the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps. The other crisis facing our youth right now is mental health. We have cut mental health services. And while the Congress was focused on hiding their names in the Epstein files, Trump was cutting basic public health services. We need to restart gender-affirming care in this city. We need to make sure that LGBTQ plus youth have the mental health services they need, like the Trevor Project. And we need to put more counselors in schools and less cops.
Micah.
I'm the parent of 3 kids, 2 teenagers, and I worry enormously about what careers are going to be available to them in an economy that is absolutely changing before our eyes. That is one of the reasons why I proposed a first job guarantee as part of a program of paid national service. There are really societally important jobs in mental health, in education, in healthcare, where we have massive shortages today, and we're going to need human beings to be doing those jobs in a decade too. And we should tell young people that we can give you work in a meaningful profession at a wage that can enable you to afford to build a life. I've also introduced legislation at the state level that I think we should do at the national level to create wage insurance as a complement to unemployment insurance. So it's not just that you get support if you lose your job, but that you get support if you take a new job at a lower salary. I also think, and this isn't directly related to the question, but it is part of the puzzle, I think we should ban social media for kids under 16. I don't think they need it. I think it's doing enormous damage to mental health in this country.
Thank you. Alex.
Raise your hand if you think Congress is up to the task of regulating AI. Okay, interesting. I'd love to hear the results. For most of us, that's the ballgame right there. We missed the boat on social media. Yes, it should be banned for people under 16, and we're going to miss the boat on AI as well. And that's because you need people there who are as comfortable on the command line as they are on the picket line. I will be the second Democrat ever in Congress with a degree in computer science, and Ted Lieu is great, but he could use some friends. But more than the knowledge, it's the question of whether we will stand up to the outside money that the AI industry is pouring in, telling people not to regulate them. Every time I propose a policy to help kids, like putting a token tax on the commercial use of AI, getting rid of depreciation, things that actually give them a fair shot in moving forward. I get texts from Congress members that say, hey, this is great, and I always say, introduce it. But they never do. They're watching this race to find out if they're allowed to regulate AI. The AI industry wants to make an example out of this race. Let's make sure it's a good example.
Thank you. Laura.
Congress is not up to the task of regulating AI because of AI money in Congress. AI money is also in this race. Alex has set himself up as a champion, but the truth is he's voted against state laws for consumer protection related to AI 4 times. The Loading Act is but one example where he joined an executive from IBM and someone with Russian ties to oppose regulations that would require human beings to oversee the use of AI. There's 3 other bills. 8773, 83779, and 84550 for those at home who are going to do their research. These raise serious questions. He went from Palantir, now he takes Anthropic money. We will not have proper regulation as long as we keep accepting corporate funders. The Democratic Party can and must do better for the next generation, and that includes moratoriums and better regulations, but it can't come from someone taking their money.
Thank you. Jack.
AI threatens to disrupt our economy, But I refuse to submit to this idea that AI is just going to take all of our jobs and there's nothing that we can do about it. I think AI can be used as a tool. It can be regulated. I think that we can have public sector participation in the windfall profits that AI companies generate. I think that if an employee is forced to train an AI model, that they should have ownership over that product that they use. I understand the dangers that come with AI. But I also believe in Congress, and that's why I'm running. I'm running because I believe in public service and that Congress can actually do things. And it's a defeatist belief to say that there's nothing we can do about it. And I just, I don't want to, I've got tons of plans I would love to talk to you about. But Alex sits here and he talks about regulating the AI industry backed by Anthropic. His plan to regulate the AI industry is to hand over national equity stake to the AI companies, and in exchange, the public gets like a 5-cent coupon. This is an AI company's dream. And I think I don't want to have this debate where we're not talking about issues, but I've sat here for months and listened to you tell these lies about what you're going to do about AI, and I just cannot let it go by with a straight face. It's
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all. Okay, so we're good on time. This never happens. We were back there thinking that maybe some folks would like to address some of the things that were said about them, and so we'll give you a little bit of an opportunity to do that, and then talk about some things that you find important. But I want to, none of you mentioned press freedom, how it's being attacked in this country. You did talk about the oligarchs, Jack, who own all the media companies, and the consolidation of conservative media in this country. Do you guys have any idea? And then we'll move on to something that you want to talk about. Anyone want to discuss that? Go ahead.
I think this is one of the most dangerous things that's facing our country. Look at who lined up behind President Trump at the inauguration. It was the leaders of all the biggest algorithms. Now, with the merger deal, he's got every big tech, every big media company basically sucking up to him, silencing free expression, CBS, and the rest. And I think it doesn't just apply to right-wing media institutions. There are also left-wing media institutions who are resistant to change as well. There are local media institutions who are playing politics and electioneering. And that's why I really am so grateful and inspired by what COURIER and others have done. And it is something that I have tried to do, and that's how I got here, was try to make independent media, to try to get my voice out there unfiltered to people, because that's what the Democratic Party has to do. We don't stand a chance if we're going to be filtered through the Trump billionaire oligarchs.
If I can just give you a few more seconds, what would you do to correct this, to try to mitigate this?
There's only 100 million things that we have to do. One of those things is to repeal Section 230 to allow us to hold social media companies accountable for the user-generated content. Another thing we have to do is make sure that we break up and do not allow these mega mergers to go through on the media side. The other thing is we need to give tax breaks and incentives to businesses like COURIER to make sure that they're able to compete. And lastly, we need to make sure that we have an insight into the algorithms that are driving all of the information that we're getting, because it is not fair. It seems organic. It seems like it's user-driven. And there are people, there are foreign governments, there are other campaigns, there are interest groups that are having their thumb on the scales, driving bot armies to drive our political conversation. And we're being held ransom to these companies for clicks.
As an independent media owner, the taxes, I have to tell you, they are very restrictive.
Yes, I own my own independent media company too, and it is incredibly hard, and it takes a long time and a lot of investment to make a profit, but it's what we got to do.
Nina first, go ahead.
Yeah, when Trump took office, most of my media friends were talking about their worry about protection of source and how that was going to go away under the Trump administration. What has happened is so much worse. This is something we also see in health, and a shout out to my friend Sunny, who's here, who's a leader in gender affirming care. What we've seen in health is we've seen hospitals take the decisions before the Trump administration even went after them to stop care. And we've seen the same thing in the media. And I want to talk about this race specifically. I don't know what I did to piss off the editors of the New York Times. I mean, yeah, Jack too. But But they just have not included me or Laura or really any of the other people in the race. I thought, and I looked into it, that there were like rules where media had to like cover people equally. Well, it turns out that's not true if the media is owned by broligarchs and oligarchs and rich people.
Yeah.
So I don't
Called
know.
Michael Bloomberg.
The whole media for me is totally screwed, and we need some rules back in this game.
George, go ahead.
Yeah, I stood in front of Warner Brothers Discovery headquarters a few weeks ago and protested the merger. And I was really, it was just, I never thought I'd be there. I was a corporate lawyer or a litigator, litigating corporate deals. But the thing that drew me to that protest was the fact that there are two common threads in our legal history that need to be reignited and renewed. The first is the constitutional checks and balances, where Congress actually asserts its role in controlling an executive and impeaching and removing an executive. Because that's a concentration of power that we're seeing and corruption that we're seeing that the framers of our Constitution never intended. The second is the antitrust laws. The same idea was behind the antitrust laws, restricting power, restricting control. And right now we have an unholy alliance between power in government, corruption in government, and corruption in the corporate media that is threatening our democracy, and we need to start by getting rid of Trump.
I want to ask you, because there are certain states, thank you, George, there are certain states now who are threatening to sue to try to block this merger. Would you encourage New York to do that?
100%, and I think Tish James is doing that, and I applaud her for that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Micah.
To that point, we have a statute in New York called the Donnelly Act, which is the state antitrust statute, and it's a powerful statute, and I think that we should use it. I've introduced legislation to strengthen the Donnelly Act by creating a first ever whistleblower incentive for antitrust whistleblowers in New York. And we do need to get back to robust antitrust enforcement at the federal level. We are seeing consolidation in the media industry that is doing enormous harm to our democracy. We're seeing consolidation in healthcare that is driving up costs and screwing over Americans. We are seeing consolidation in the food industry. And so obviously, Donald Trump is doing no antitrust enforcement except when it punishes his enemies. We need to get back to consistent and aggressive antitrust and, frankly, a broader view of what antitrust and consumer harm means than even what's happening in the Democratic administrations. I think that's a big piece of the media puzzle. We also need to pass legislation to preserve the political independence of the FCC. Brendan Carr is a Donald Trump toady. We can never have that happen again.
Yeah. Alex.
We need far stronger antitrust enforcement. We also need to revise Section 230. We also need to let creators move through different social media platforms so they can choose their algorithm and actually have to compete over us. And I'm proud to have partnered with colleagues to deliver a tax break for news media in New York. We should take that nationwide so that you can have more independent media. It's super important because when you have a night like tonight, where many politicians want to just spew lies, you have the media there to call them on it and to actually set the record straight. So let's set the record straight on some of what's been said. Every candidate on the stage has a super PAC. For most of my opponents,
That's not true.
That is not true.
That's not true.
That is not true.
You'll get a turn.
That's not true.
Let him finish, and I'll let you guys respond. Go ahead, Alex.
I'll let the beep happen, and then I'll,
Okay.
I would love to hear.
Yeah, me too. I want to hear about my super PAC.
For most of my opponents, it's called Leading the Future. It was the first super PAC to enter this race.
Can
and
you
it
please name people, Alex? This
Sure.
is BS.
Ben Horowitz,
No,
Mark
I mean,
Andreessen, Greg Brockman, the president
But
of
who are you talking
OpenAI.
about? Laura, do you have a super PAC?
Not that I noticed.
Hey, George, you got a super PAC?
Let me check.
What are you talking
No, that's
about?
actually OpenAI's super PAC that's mad at you because you have an Anthropic super PAC. It has nothing to do with me. You cannot lie your way out of this.
Is your tantrum done?
It's not a tantrum,
It's
Thank
not
you.
a tantrum, dude.
I didn't
It's
say
like-
yours was, Nina.
Yeah,
you made a point.
It's not a tantrum.
I said Jackson.
It's just about, I mean, we're also not politicians.
Okay,
we have a
I
little
like
moderation
evidence and I
here.
like proof, all right?
Sure.
Where's the evidence that they have a super
They
PAC?
all
Bring
have
it
a
on.
super PAC called Leading the Future, which is
Me?
the first. Nina, can I please give my answer? And then I'll let you respond, I promise.
Well,
But
you'll get
can
to
I just-
respond. You'll get to respond.
Unless what I'm saying is so scary to be heard that you need to talk
No,
over
I
it. Let
really
me
want
say
you to
it.
keep
Let
talking.
him finish. Let him finish,
Thank
please, please, please.
They all have a super PAC called Leading the Future. The first super PAC to enter this race funded by Trump megadonors and pledged to spend $10 million against me. And I offered at the start of the race to take the People's Pledge, which is when you say, I will get rid of my own campaign funds for any super PAC that is spending in support of me or against my opponents. That's how you keep the money out of politics. And I heard crickets from everyone else up here. They're all benefiting from that super PAC. Now, they didn't ask for it. I want to be clear. I'm not claiming that they did. But they're happy to look the other way at Trump money coming into this race or to repeat the lies of the Trump megadonors if it gets them into Congress.
Go ahead.
So they will all be beholden to that super PAC if they win, as will every other member of Congress who
Okay.
have learned the lesson that they can't stand up. to
Nina
the AI
and then
industry.
Jack, go ahead.
First of all, I resent being called a politician. I'm actually not one. I've spent my life and my career delivering real services to real people, and we need more politicians in Congress who aren't politicians. So that's the first lie. The second one is, what the heck? First of all, when you entered the race, I wasn't even in the race, so I don't know what you're talking about. The second, now I'm actually on the third, is money and polling are completely aligned. So why has nobody heard of me or Laura? Because we don't have billions of dollars behind us. And with all due respect to Jack and George, you guys are pretty famous. We're not. So why are we off the debate stage? We're off the debate stage because we don't have higher polling numbers. And why don't we have higher polling numbers? Well, Alex, my family hadn't heard of you either before this race until we got hundreds and hundreds of flyers and announcements, New York Times articles, Michelle Goldberg, like, man, that's the way to work it.
Everyone should read that Michelle Goldberg article. I'm sure your family first heard of me
All
through
right,
20
Alex, we gotta
negative
we gotta
mailers
give
from
folks
Leading
a
the
chance.
Future.
Go ahead, Jack.
I mean, I want you to talk too. I don't know what to say.
Laura, you'll get a chance.
I've sat here and listened to the story for a long time. It really bothers me that you're trying to mislead the people. This is my home, and you're trying to pull a fast one on people, and it sucks because I've sat through these forums. We haven't been able to really debate like this, and I've had to sit there and take it. And the OpenAI guys are spending against you. The Anthropic guys are spending for you. That's the deal you made. I get it. Don't complain. I don't complain about my negative media coverage. That's the name of the game. You know, people are going to attack you in politics. It's a dirty business, and I'm not benefiting from people attacking you. I'm not parroting lies either. The idea that it's a lie that Chris Larson, who is spending $3.5 million for you, donated $5 million to Trump's campaign is verifiably true. That he is funding MAGA Republican candidates around the country who want to give ICE the Medal of Freedom is verifiably true. The fact that you don't want to admit it does not mean that I'm lying. And I don't want to talk about this all the time. Trump is president. We have a huge national crisis at our hands. We need to galvanize a movement and build a movement to take on that.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
The organization MAMA, Moms Against Media Addiction, has pointed out that AI is smart. They're starting to put forward fake bills into state legislatures that look like they will help, but they don't because they leave discretion to big AI. When I look at Alex Boris in this race, I see a Trojan horse because all the money has promoted his name and his face in a race where he already had plenty of competition. All publicity is good publicity. And to say, I'm Trump's enemy, no, you're not. I've sued Donald Trump. You haven't. There are people on the stage who have gone against him, who have fought tooth and nail. And I don't want to see this race stolen, and it will be. And it's heartbreaking. There's only one candidate who I've ever seen their poster ripped down in convenience stores, and it's Alex Boris when they found out he worked for Palantir, took crypto money, and worked with Anthropic.
30 seconds, Alex.
Laura, I'm glad you mentioned MAMA. They partnered with me on the RAISE Act, and they partnered with me on my AI chatbot bill. They see me as the person who is actually the reformer standing
And
up
they shouldn't.
I thought you just called
Go
them
ahead,
out
go
as an
ahead,
authority.
finish,
That's
Alex.
quite
Go ahead,
interesting.
please.
We are going to lose to the AI industry if people keep playing these petty games. Let's take a step back. AI is coming for all of us. It's coming for our jobs. It's coming for our kids. This is a serious conversation, and this conversation we're having right here is not meeting the moment that the American people need and deserve.
I didn't get to answer the journalist question.
I'm sorry?
I didn't get to answer the question on journalism.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
May I am not just worried about journalism in the United States. I'm worried about the Palestinian journalists that have been killed by the Israeli government on purpose to hide the truth. We've seen genocidal acts. We know that children have been sniped. We know that sexual violence is being used by the IDF, and we have a misinformation war. I have two men on the stage who have parroted my idea without giving me credit. I am the only candidate who has called repeatedly in every single forum that I've appeared in since October 1st to repeal Section 230 of the Communications Act, which gives immunity to big tech companies for the algorithms that are poisoning our society, which are spreading misinformation. It is no secret that the Republican Party is losing members, and their new strategy is to target Israeli and Jewish members of society by dividing us over this issue. We must find our center again.
Thank you. You want to quickly, Jack? Quick.
Yeah, I just, and thank you. I didn't mean, I'm not stealing. It's a great idea. And we agree, so thank you. And you've done a great job advocating for it in every forum. I totally appreciate that. But I really think this is a critical issue. If AI is the big thing that we all know it is, and we know that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on races around the country, there's got to be a reason why. The reason why is something the fossil fuel industry pioneered. It's called regulatory capture. You write the rules, you build a moat, and you entrench the largest incumbents. And you can sound like you're a champion for going against AI to the common listener. But when you look through the facts and you look through Alex's bill, it protects the largest incumbents. And that is just how the world works. And I just want to say the idea that Trump's mega donors even know who you are is just laughable to me.
Okay, that's going to have to be the end of it on that, because the tip-off is near, and we're going to get. So, okay, it's 30 seconds on the clock. 30 seconds on the clock, please.
I just want to warn my fellow Democrats that we should not fall into the trap of believing that there are good mega AI companies and bad mega AI companies. And we should think back not that long ago when Facebook was coming to Democrats and saying, I'm going to work with you. We're going to work with you to regulate social media, and we're going to give the party a ton of money, and we're the good tech bros. Watch out for these guys. We need an independent Congress.
George, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to do a closing statement, okay?
I was about to ask.
Okay.
A closing statement.
So we're going to do a closing statement, because
Yeah,
tip-off
this is my
is near.
closing statement.
And you can use any subject that you want, but also we want to talk about electability if you can, but whatever you want.
Right. Look, I been listening to this, and I've got a bunch of notes of different things about this discussion in the last couple of minutes. One is, I join Nina in saying, I am not a politician. I never wanted to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I am not benefiting from the PACs that are opposing Alex Boris, because it's not about me. It's not about me winning. It's not about a career in politics. I'm committing to serve just one term because I believe that the most important thing we can do we've heard hundreds of policy proposals tonight. Amazing. Hundreds. How many of those are significantly, realistically possible as long as Donald Trump is president, as long as this corrupt regime is here? The priority has to be to impeach, convict, and remove him. And maybe that's a tall order, but we have to try. We owe it to our children. We owe it to our Constitution. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the world. Thank you.
Nina?
I'm running for Congress because we are in deep trouble. And from vaccines to abortion, science to SNAP, we're losing our democracy and the systems that keep us safe. We have measles, children with measles in New York. And when we have measles in public health, it's a sign that our basic systems are failing. And it's not just health, it's education, it's immigration. I've worked in over 100 countries. I've negotiated with Russia, North Korea, India. I've delivered billions of vaccines. I've argued with pharmaceutical companies and cut the prices of cervical cancer vaccines by 65%. I've faced death threats for that work, and I do it anyway. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a tech oligarch. I'm not backed by legacy Democrats, and I'm not a celebrity. But I'm a fighter, and I'm a scientist, and I'm a mom. And I know how to rebuild broken systems because I built them. People tell me that I can't win and I should vote for somebody else. You should vote for somebody else. I can win. 32% of the voters in this district are undecided, and I'll vote. If you vote for me, I will win.
I'm going to go, Alex, you next.
This race is a test of whether our democracy can govern AI before it or the billionaires that own it govern us. It's why I passed the RAISE Act, the strongest AI safety bill in the nation, and followed up with the strongest bill to protect kids from chatbots. It's also why Trump's mega donors at Leading the Future are spending millions to stop me. But it's not just about this race. No, if they win, they'll go to every member of Congress, especially whichever my opponents win this seat, and say, hey, don't regulate us or we'll spend $10 million against you. That's the message they want to send, that the cost of having a say in how AI is affecting our kids' brains or our jobs or the environment, the cost of that is political destruction. So this is not just my race, it's all of ours. And it's a chance to answer the question as to whether Trump mega donors can buy this seat. Let's all look them in the eye and tell them no.
Jack.
If you can't tell already, I'm not your typical political candidate for office. I come with a different set of experiences. I've worked really hard on the issues I care about my whole life. I volunteered on campaigns ever since Barack Obama ran for president in 2007, and I was inspired. I have a legal education. I understand policy. I've worked on campaigns. I think in this moment in time, the real task before the Democratic Party is to build a movement. We got to build a movement strong enough to take on Trump, strong enough to impeach and remove him, and to pass laws and legislate to make sure people's lives actually get better. I have a demonstrated ability to do that because I believe in public service. I believe in the generations who came before us who sacrificed so that we could all run in this primary. And I feel obligated to meet the moment and to sacrifice now in our time to answer what is our last chance ever to stop Trump. And if we don't start something new now, it's our own fault.
Micah.
First of all, I just want to say this is our final forum, and I want to thank my colleagues. I have learned from each of you, and I've become a better candidate because of each of you, and I know that this district will be well represented, whatever happens in the primary. This district, it's an amazing district. This is a district that changes history. Before Jerry Nadler, there was Ted Weiss and Bella Abzug and Bill Fitzryan, and these were members of Congress that helped end the war in Vietnam and forced Richard Nixon from office and spoke with moral clarity against the war in Iraq and impeached Donald Trump not once but twice. And I'm running for the seat, and it will not happen on day one with any of us, but I am running for the seat to follow in that tradition, to put a lifetime of public service, making change, taking on powerful interests, to work for the people of this district, to continue the tradition of having a member of Congress who speaks with moral clarity and gets things done.
Laura, you get the last word.
Congress is full of cowards and the corrupt, and I am running to offer courage. I'm Laura Dunn, and as a civil rights attorney, I've drafted and passed federal law, served on rulemaking committees, advised White House task forces, clerked on the Senate Judiciary, and even sued Donald Trump. That is more federal experience than anyone sitting on the stage with me today. I will be the accountability candidate. I will fight for congressional term limits, ending insider trading, ethical standards for the Supreme Court, because we have an affordability crisis in this country due to the lack of accountability. Officials are profiting off their positions while you and I struggle to make ends meet. There are millionaires on the stage backed by billionaires and super PACs. I am a middle-class candidate. I am unbought, unbossed, and unafraid. The rookies in this race are not ready to lead on day one. The showmen are here for the limelight, and the establishment is more of the same. I will be the voice for change in Congress, so vote for me June 23rd. I'll get the job done.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Julie.
COURIER and MeidasTouch and It's been an honor to host you guys. We're just so grateful for all of your passion, integrity, and commitment
To public service. I agree with Micah that we would be lucky to have any of you in this seat. So thank you for this so much from all of us. And tip-off is happening now. And as New Yorkers, we need to go Knicks. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us.